All right, so good morning, everyone, and welcome as usual to HOMT 611 Events Management. Today is our 6th session, and during our session today, we will be treating stakeholder management. Now, in one of our previous lectures, we talked a bit about stakeholders and the role that they play. In fact, in our previous session, we discussed the stakeholder map in relation to the event proposal assignments that you were given. And we realized that stakeholders play a very key role when it comes to the successful management of events. So today we are going to delve deeper into the concept of stakeholders and how event professionals can effectively manage them while they are executing their duties in the organizing of events. So let's get into it. As usual, before we end the session, there are certain learning outcomes that we hope to achieve. And today there are 3 of them. One being to define stakeholders and learn the differences between internal and external stakeholders. 2, to understand the importance of managing stakeholder relationships and effective methods of that management. And then finally, we'll be able to understand the challenges and potential solutions that stakeholders bring to the management of events. So let's begin. Now, before we go into anything, we first need to acquaint ourselves with who a stakeholder is. So our first question in this session is, who is a stakeholder? And according to Freeman 1984, a stakeholder is any group or individual who can affect or is affected by the achievement of the organization's objectives. So in this case, organization here can refer to an institution, it can refer to an individual, or it can refer to the activities of you as an event professional and the team of individuals that you are working with to be able to successfully execute events. Now, stakeholders have 2 main attributes. The first one being that they have a claim, in the sense that the event that you're organizing, whoever has some form of claim to any aspect of the event, be it the venue, the successful execution of the event, funding the event, organizing the event, volunteering at the event, all of these people have some sort of claim on the event that you're organizing. And that is one key attribute that stakeholders have. 2, stakeholders also have the ability to influence. So in this case, they have the ability to influence a firm when we are talking about organizations or institutions. But in the case of the event professional and event management, stakeholders are all the individuals or institutions who have some kind of influence on how the event is planned, organized, and successfully executed. So whenever we talk about stakeholders, these are 2 key attributes that we expect to see of someone or a group of people who we refer to as stakeholders. So in the event that we have a stakeholder, we are saying that they have a claim as well as some form of influence. And this claim and influence that they have puts them in the position of risk, in the sense that having a claim over the events that you're organizing means that they have some form of vested interest in what you are doing as an event professional, which to a large extent places them in a position of risk, because their vested interest means that they have put in something that they are expecting to be able to get something else in return. So that interest that they have and that influence that they are able to exert on your event places them at some kind of risk. And considering this risk, we can categorize stakeholders into 2 main groups: voluntary risk bearers and involuntary risk bearers, in the sense that the risk that comes with their vested interest sometimes is not as a result of their own free will. Let me give you a typical example. So for instance, you decide to have an event at an open space in the middle of a community, so perhaps a wedding reception. And this wedding reception will involve a lot of loud music and large crowds. And perhaps this community is not used to having such large crowds and loud music going on within their midst all the time. So in the event that you are organizing this program or you are having this event that is going to bring in all this loud noise and all these plenty people, introduces some element of risk for them. However, they didn't ask for it. It is as a result of the event that you are organizing that they did not have any direct influence over. Hence, the members of the community who live around this venue that you are hosting the event that is going to cause all this noise and attract all these crowds of people are involuntary risk bearers, because they get to bear the risk of having all these people around, people whom they do not know, people whose character they cannot attest to, and then they will also have to endure all this purported noise that is going to be made through the loud music and the dancing and the singing and the fun that is going to be had. So these are a typical example of involuntary risk bearers. Whereas for the voluntary risk bearers, it's a bit more straightforward. We can talk about so many of them, including the actual commissioners of the event who commissioned the event professional to organize the event on their behalf. We can also talk about people like sponsors who voluntarily give you certain resources, be it money or products or logistics to be able to organize your event. These are people who decided to be associated with and contribute to the event of their own accord. Hence, they are referred to as voluntary risk bearers. So we can say in this regard that a risk or stake is either something or an opportunity that can be lost. So the stake that the people in the community have is the opportunity of having their consistent peace and quiet that is going to be lost for the moment or period that the event is going to be had, because there's going to be a lot of loud music and there's going to be a lot of crowds around, which is something that they are not used to having. So that is their stake in the event. The sponsors also are putting some kind of risk and a stake in your event by giving you resources, be it financial or non-financial, by even attaching their name to your event. Because in the event that, in the situation that the event does not go as planned, their reputation as a brand may take a hit, or it may have some implications for their brand and the people that they serve. That is why we are saying that for the stakeholders, they have some form of risk, which is either voluntary or involuntary, and it refers to either something or an opportunity that they can lose. Please, so far, does everything make sense?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, please. Great. So in essence, we are saying that if you do not have any risk or stake in an event that is being organized, we cannot refer to you as a stakeholder. However, it is important to note that not all the stakes that stakeholders have in an event are legal. Some stakes are legal and others are those of an ethical nature. So let me give you an example, and then you tell me whether it is a legal stake, which is also known as a claim, or a moral stake, which is also known as an ethical stake, right? So a legal stake is where the stake or risk that the stakeholder has with regard to the event is something that they can pursue into the realms of legality to the point of prosecuting in the court of law. Whereas the stake that stakeholders have, which is referred to as the moral or ethical stake, is one that they cannot necessarily pursue into the legal realm by taking it to the court of law, but it's a matter of moral and ethical standard to be able to appreciate their stake, right, and respect their position as stakeholders based on morals and ethics, and not necessarily based on legal claims. So I'm going to give you two scenarios, and you're going to tell me which one is a legal stake and which one is a moral stake. So the two examples I just gave. A sponsor gives you 10,000 Ghana cedis to be made the headline sponsor of a health walk that you're having in your community. In this case, is the sponsor a stakeholder? The one who gave you the 10,000 Ghana cedis, is he or she a stakeholder? One. And two, what kind of stakeholder is that person? Or I should go over the question again.
Yes, doctor.
Okay. So I'm saying that an individual gives you 10,000 Ghana cedis to become the headline sponsor of a health walk that you are organizing in your community. In this case, I'm asking you, one, does this person qualify to be a stakeholder? And two, if they qualify to be a stakeholder, what type of stakeholder would you say they are? Ruth, you want to give it a shot?
Okay, Doug, yes.
Okay.
The person is a stakeholder
Okay.
because he has taken an amount of money to sponsor an event.
Yes.
So it's a stakeholder.
Yes.
And I think it's a moral. It's a moral.
You believe it's a moral stake?
It's a moral stake.
That's what you believe?
Yeah, that's what I think, because I'm thinking that if it's legal, maybe there should be a documentation. I don't know.
Okay. So that is your honest opinion. Thank you very much, Bless, for that one. Any other?
My opinion, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Ruth. Any other person who wants to share their view?
Yeah, no.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm thinking, yeah, he's a stakeholder and the legal stakeholder, because this one, he or she is giving you money to hold the first position, I don't know, to have a particular position, or to be the first something on the stakeholder list. So maybe at that time there is a contract, because the money he or she is giving out is because he wants to hold or to be placed at the first position or something.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. So maybe if he comes and realizes that he is not the first or something, well, that's my view.
Okay. Thank you very much, John, for sharing your view. Any other view? Mercedes.
The person is a stakeholder, yes, but whether legal or moral, I can't seem to put the person either here or here, because for legal, like Joanne explained, when you look at it, it's legal. Just that for legal, I'm thinking or expecting maybe a documentation, but when you were saying it, there was nothing like documentation.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit, so that's making me not know where to put the person. Because if there was a legal documentation, I would have gone for legal. Right now, there's nothing, and I don't know if it was intentional that you put the question this way. So
this was very intentional, because we have learned a lot about the event professional and how they should go about
exactly.
it. So use all the knowledge you gained so far, and then put the thing where you believe it should be.
Yeah. So from that, I would put it under moral.
You put it under moral. Okay.
Yes.
So we have two people with the moral votes. Any other?
But Doc,
yes.
Doc, before I conclude, is it possible for somebody to have both stakes?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yes.
Okay, then I think I'll put the person at the 2.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other person want to share their view? Because now we have 2 extremes and then 1 in between.
That's good.
So Mercedes chose moral/legal. Ruth went for moral and Joan went for legal. There's no other view. Okay. So we are going to answer it ourselves. I'm going to give you some scenarios and then we will come up with the actual answer. Now, in this day and age, would anybody part with such an amount of money without any documentation?
No.
No.
Good. So that should be your first point of call. So even if the person does not ask for documentation, you as an event professional, knowing the right thing to do, has to do it. What do you have to do as an event professional? Given that the person gives you this amount of money, doesn't ask for any documentation, doesn't say anything, just gives you the money and says, just make me headline sponsor. And then
Madam.
Hello.
Yes. I'm here. Please go ahead.
Okay, so Doug, you so as an event professional,
a smart
you draft you draft a legal document and then you agree on it and sign. Is that what we are supposed to do?
Exactly, that is what you are supposed to do. Because any transaction where money exchange has already entered the legal realm.
Yeah, okay.
Transaction where money exchanges hands, even if it's not money and it is some kind of some substantial resource that exchanges hands, you're already in the realm of legality. Because in the event that, let's say the event becomes a success, and then a higher sponsor wants to buy the event from you for a higher amount. This person who helped you when the event was very small with 10,000 can come and say that, okay, I didn't give her 10,000. I did this and I did that, and I gave my ideas, blah, 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 and I believe my stake in the event is worth so and so.
Yeah, and doctor, the definition for money is that money is a legal tender.
Thank you. Anything involving money is legal. From the day you say the first words about it, like money, hey, it's legal. Because anything can happen. So you always need to make sure that there's paperwork to guard it. But it also enters the moral realm where you know that even if there's no paperwork, out of ethics, you know that you have received this amount of money from this person. And therefore, you have to do due diligence and then give them what you promised them, which is the headline sponsorship position. But before it became a moral issue, it was for the longest time a legal issue. Please, do we understand?
Yes, please.
Great. So please don't make that mistake. Anytime some form of resource is exchanging hands, please remember and bear in mind that it is a legal matter because there's an exchange going on. So there should be some kind of documentation to back that exchange so that everybody can be clear on the terms of the exchange relationship from day one. So because of the nature of these legal and moral stakes that stakeholders may have, it underpins the influence that we said they have on the event. Because like I said, once the person gives you some kind of resources as sponsorship, they are expecting something in return. And with that stake that they have and what they are expecting in return, they can decide to use it as leverage and hold it over your head. And when they have that kind of leverage, they have the ability to influence your behavior. Sometimes even influence the direction of the event, how the event is organized, and even its outcome. Because they can decide that, okay, I gave you 10,000, I'm your headline sponsor. So now I'm going to tell you how to distribute the prizes, how to determine the winner, assuming it is a competition. I'm going to decide how you decorate the hall, assuming it is an event that is going to be held in a grand venue, and you need to be able to decorate the place. Because they have given you the money to pay for the decorations and all the other things, so they can be able to dictate. Hence what we learned about the stakeholder map, where you can determine the level of interest and influence that various stakeholders have and treat them as such. Now let me give you one last example and see if you get this one off the bat. I'm going to make it an easy one. So you are having an event and you received some sponsorship. Let's take it, we are organizing Mercedes event of Ghana to the world. And the theme for this particular year's own is Yam, the formidable tuber. So the theme is built around yam. Now, we are organizing the event. We've got some sponsorship. We paid, we issued a request for proposals. We got vendors to come and buy slots and stuff. But by the time we finished offsetting the expenses with the income that we got, we realized that we did not have enough money to pay all the staff who were going to be working the premises. So we decided to put out a request for volunteers. And what we told the volunteers was that if they do a good job, we will find something for them at the end of the event to say thank you. But the event ends and we are thinking whether or not we should give them what we promised them before they came to volunteer to help us with the event. And the volunteers are saying that we have to be able to fulfill the promise that we give them because they have a stake. So my question here is, these volunteers who came to help us with the event, given the circumstances in which they came, are they stakeholders at all? And then secondly, what type of stakeholders are they?
Doc.
Yes, let's go ahead.
Yes, they are stakeholders and moral.
So please write moral.
Okay.
So please, why moral, Ruth?
Moral because you promise them if you do this, this is what I'm going to do. So that's what I'm saying, that you promise them that you are going to do something for them. If they did something for you, they had it's your turn to also
reciprocate in a sense.
Do what you have. Dog, I'm still not getting it right.
Oh, no, you're good.
Hello?
You were breaking up, so I was just trying to hear what you were saying. Oh, she's gone off. Okay, so anyone else? Namu or Patricia, you want to come in?
Yes, doctor. Yes, doctor.
Okay, please come in.
Yeah, I think they are stakeholders, and I'll go for the moral.
Patricia? Oh, she's also gone off. Now, Momo, do you want to come in?
Doc, please, I didn't hear the latter part of the question.
No,
so
I was saying that, so the volunteers, in this case, after the event, they came and they said that, okay, you said you were going to give us something to say thank you. So we've come for it. And we, the event professionals, are wondering, okay, what kind of stake do these people have that they are coming? Is this that we pay them what, we give them what we said we will give them to say thank you?
Okay, so I'll go for moral stake because I think, I mean, this is more of an ethical issue.
Exactly.
Yes.
Hello, doctor.
Yes, Patricia, you're back.
Yes, I'm back. Yes, doctor. I think I'll go for the moral stake.
Yeah.
Because you promise them something, and you really have to fulfill it.
Yeah.
And that is moral right. You have to do that. So
Yeah.
I think I'll go for that.
Yeah, I believe so. So I think we can all agree that this is more of a moral and ethical statement. Because in the beginning there was nothing like a contractual agreement. They came in themselves and they decided to help, and we said, okay, if you decided to help, this is what we are going to do. We will try to say thank you at the end, but we are not committing to do anything. So I think it's more of a moral stake. Or does someone share a contrary view?
Yeah, doctor. I think these things is good we are learning them, because a lot of people don't fulfill their promise.
That's true.
So, sometimes somebody organized a party and they get these boys to direct cars and other things.
Yeah.
They promise them that after the party, we are going to, or fine.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, the guys are expecting something, and the person is like, oh, this thing didn't even turn out the way I was expecting and stuff like that. And, they just breach that thing. So I think it's good that when you make a promise, you should fulfill it.
Yes, it's very important. Thank you, Patricia, for bringing.
Doc, please. So, as in Patricia's case, assuming you don't fulfill your part, can the stakeholder take you on in a moral sense?
The stakeholder can take you on in a moral sense.
Okay.
But not in a legal sense. Because from the onset, it was not a contractual agreement. You didn't commit to pay them any money. From the onset,
Doc.
they agreed themselves to come on as volunteers. But because,
Doc.
Now we'll go ahead.
I know you were saying.
Okay. But because you have integrity, ethics is a very important part of every single thing that we do. Right? You have to be ethical in order to be able to do good business. So if you like the popular saying goes, your word is your what? How does that say?
Your weapon. Your weapon.
No, your word is your.
Your word is your word.
No, your word is your word.
Weapon.
No, your word is your word. You should know this. Your word is your word. Mercedes, your word is your word. Your word is your word.
It's your word.
No, your word is your bond. You've never heard it before.
No, Dog, this is the first time.
Dog, I catch you.
Wow, your word is your bond.
Your bond.
That's why even if you don't sign a contract with someone in an exchange relationship, right? In the law of agency, the moment that you have an agreement and there's a witness, it is admissible in the court of law. But the moment you speak it, you are bound by it. That is why we have the saying, your word is your bond. So ethics is very important.
Doc, please, I want to ask you a question.
Please go ahead.
So, assuming the stakeholder, you have a stakeholder who comes in not with money, but then says that, okay, I'll provide, let's say, the sound system or the music or something of that sort in exchange for, maybe something, I don't know. Although the person didn't give you money, what if you don't fulfill your part of the agreement? Could that be a legal issue or a legal stake or a moral stake?
It's both moral and legal.
Oh, okay, Doc.
In the sense that the law is very interesting. If someone can actually attest to the fact that both of you came together and had this agreement in the beginning,
okay,
and one person fulfilled their part, and there's evidence to show the person fulfilled his part, and the other person did not fulfill their part, it's admissible in the court of law. So it's both legal and moral.
Okay, Doc.
But technically, as an event professional, you need to be able to attest the integrity of this person who is making this promise to you. The person you don't have an agreement with the person, it's not written on paper, and you have reasonable doubts in the promise that the person is making. As an event professional, you need to have a contingency plan. So that in the event that the person doesn't show up, you can be able to recoup. Please, does it make sense?
Yes, Doc. Yes, Doc.
Yes, Doctor.
Good. Okay. So in essence, we have understood the concept of the moral stake and the legal stake. So generally, we are saying that both voluntary and involuntary stakeholders can have either a moral or legal stake in the events that you are organizing. So generally, when we say voluntary stakeholders, we are saying that they bear some form of risk as a result of having invested some form of capital human or financial or something of value in a fair, or in this case, in an event. So in the event that you're organizing, anybody who has invested some form of capital, human or financial, or something of value of their own accord is known as a voluntary stakeholder. And then the involuntary stakeholders are those who are placed at risk as a result of the activity that you're organizing and did not voluntarily ask for it. And like I said, if you're having an event at a venue in your community that is not used to having all this loud noise from speakers and then having all these people coming into the community, they are at risk because they cannot even attest to the character of these people that are coming into a community. And most of the time during large events like that that have a lot of people coming in, there are several incidents that take place, sometimes petty thefts and minor issues that cause inconvenience for the people who live in these communities. So they can be referred to as involuntary stakeholders. Now, aside from voluntary and involuntary stakeholders, when we are looking at the confines of the institutional framework, there are two other types of stakeholders we can talk about: internal and external. Now, internal stakeholders are groups or individuals that are directly working within an organization. So organization here can refer to perhaps the organization, if it is an institution, that commissioned that event to be organized. So for instance, if EcoBank commissioned for you to organize an end of year party for their staff, the internal stakeholders here are the members of staff of EcoBank, from the cleaner all the way up to the CEO, right? And some of these people might have a legal or moral stake in the organization. And like I said, it can be everyone from the cleaner who is an employee, the tellers, the managers, as well as the CEO and the business owners. All of these people are internal stakeholders. And then still on the topic of internal stakeholders, we are also talking about you, the event professional in your team. So you, the event professional who is the owner of the event company, your team members who are helping you to plan the event also constitute internal stakeholders, because you are working together from within your organization and you are directly responsible for the event and how it turns out. Then we can talk about external stakeholders, who are groups or individuals who are not directly working within an organization, but are affected in one way or another by the decisions or activities of the organization. So if we say external stakeholders in this sense, again, using the EcoBank example, when EcoBank commissions the event planning company to organize an end of year party, the activity that they are going to organize will have a number of other people involved who are not necessarily internal to EcoBank or internal to the event planners company, but they have a role to play and may be affected in one way or another by how the event spans out. So usually when companies and corporate institutions like EcoBank and all these huge institutions have parties or product launches or press conferences, they always like to put it out there in the media. And when they put it out there in the media, they like to have certain dignitaries present. So they will often invite government officials to these events. And then they will often try to find certain partners to partner with them to organize the event. So EcoBank will have an end of year party and then partner with Coca-Cola to sponsor all the drinks. And then perhaps they will have, instead of having an end of year party, they will have an end of year family jamboree where they would ask staff to bring in all their children and family members to come and have fun. And then they will bring in some vendors to come and set up and then provide services at the event. And then they'll bring in some sponsors to help to pay for the event. And then they will also bring in the press to cover the event and put it in the media. And at the same time too, if the event is being held at a particular venue other than the EcoBank office, the community that is around the venue that the event is being held will also be at some form of risk as a result of the event being organized. So all these different groups of people I've talked about are external stakeholders. So we have seen now the difference between internal stakeholders, who are usually within the organizations that are directly responsible for the event and its outcome. And then external stakeholders are those who are affected by the actions and decisions of the internal stakeholders in organizing and putting together the event. Please, does it make sense?
Yes, please.
Okay. Is there any question or something that you need clarification on before we proceed? Everyone is fine. Please, is everyone fine?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay, all right. So in that case, let's move on to individual stakeholders and their interest in event planning. So here we are going to look at specific types of stakeholders and the interests that they have when it comes to event planning. Now, the first one is event managers. These people are also referred to as the planners or the coordinators, but I prefer to refer to them as event professionals because they do everything from the planning to the coordinating to the logistics, the execution and everything. So event managers in this sense have a stake when they are organizing events. The first one is that they are expecting to gain some form of income from organizing the event. And this income may either go directly or indirectly towards helping to pay for their salaries and the salaries of the staff that they work with. So sometimes some event professionals will factor in their salary and the salary of their staff as part of the budget for organizing the event to ensure that people are paid. Whereas some event managers would not factor in their salary as an expense component, but will pay for the salaries out of the income that they earn as a result of organizing the event. Event managers are also very particular about safety and security when they organize events, because the level of safety and security at your last event determines how well the subsequent events that you organize will go, or how many people will come back to have you organize their events subsequently. And then event managers, again, are very concerned about the success of the events that they put together. Because if the event is not successful, it does not set them up to be able to receive future event orders from people who want them to organize their events. So the more successful events you are able to organize, the larger your portfolio becomes, and the more attractive your company or your event planning or organizing business becomes for others to be able to recruit you to plan and organize their events. So as event managers being stakeholders, these are the main interests that they have when it comes to the planning of events. Also, we can talk about employees, and in this case, they are the employees who work within the event manager's company or the event planning company, as well as the employees who come in on a contract or part-time basis to help you execute the event. And again, when we are talking about these employees, their expectations and interests include being able to receive their wages if they are coming in on a part-time basis or daily basis, or salaries if they are permanent employees, because they also have to feed their families. They also have to pay their bills. So in executing their duties at the event, they expect to be able to receive the wages and the salaries that they have promised at the end of the period, be it a daily wage or a monthly salary, given the position that the employee is playing. Employees also expect fair treatment, and this is more of a moral and ethical standard than a legal thing. If the person was a permanent employee, then the person would have some form of contract with the company and would have certain rights under the legal agreements that you signed with them, and they will be entitled to certain forms of treatment. However, it becomes more dicey when we are talking about the part-time workers and then the by-day workers who only receive wages. And some event professionals are under the impression that the fact that they are paying you does not mean that the fact that they are paying you is enough. They do not have to treat you a particular kind of way. They are paying you, and that is all that matters. So I have attended events where the waiters and the waitresses are serving you, but they are serving you with a squeezed face, and they are not very pleasant because they are not being treated properly. And sometimes, without giving them this fair treatment, because of the level of influence that they have on the event and its success, they can sabotage you and make the event go terrible. So it's very important to treat employees fairly, even though you are paying them their required wages and salaries, because it's a matter of ethics, of morality, and of basic human rights to treat people with respect. Please, does it make sense?
Yes, please.
Yes, doctor.
Okay. Then we can also talk about safety and security. Employees feel safe and secure when they are working at these events. So the event professional has to make sure that the safety and security of employees is guaranteed, and also make sure that the event goes off successfully without a hitch. Because even though the employees are there to work, you, the event professional, have to create the right environment and put in place the necessary logistics and structures for the employees to be able to help you organize the event successfully. So if you expect your waiters to be able to serve your clients at the highest standard, and you do not give them quality trays, you do not give them quality uniforms, you do not give them a dress code, they will not be able to help you to organize the event successfully, because they will only do what is within their strength. However, the structures that you put in place as an event professional is what will help to be able to make sure that the event comes off successfully without a hitch. And the successful organizing of the event guarantees them jobs in the future. Because if the person is a permanent worker and they are receiving a salary for working in your event planning company, and they are not getting, you are not getting any orders, they'll be out of the job. So you have to make sure that you organize the event successfully so that there will be future jobs for them to be able to earn a salary of. Now, the next stakeholder we can talk about are sponsors. These are a very pivotal group of people who sometimes determine the fate or otherwise of an event. And for most sponsors, they invest in events because they expect to receive some form of return on whatever they are investing. Now, sponsors, depending on who they are and the industry that they belong to, come into the sponsorship process with a number of expectations and plans of how they can recoup returns off of the investment that they have made. So for some of them, the returns that they expect to make are more tangible than intangible. And for others, it's vice versa. They expect more intangible returns than tangible returns. So for instance, you realize that for certain organizations that want to increase the profile or status of their company when it comes to their philanthropy, you realize that they will be sponsoring a lot of events that have to do with charity and to be able to put out an image of being philanthropists, which has its own effect on their brand and the perceptions of the customers who purchase their brand. So for instance, Awake decides to sponsor everything that has to do with health, including health walks, because they want to be known as a healthy brand so that more people will keep purchasing their brand because of their alignment with matters of health. And already Awake donates some proceeds of the money you spend on buying their water to the cardiothoracic center. So they are investing in giving these funds to the cardiothoracic center, but they know that they are gaining returns in terms of increasing their sales, because people will mainly buy their water just because they are donating to the cardiothoracic center on a regular basis. Milo will also always sponsor marathons and sporting events because they have positioned themselves as an energy boosting drink. So whenever they sponsor an activity like that, they are merely promoting themselves as the manufacturers of an energy booster that anybody who is engaged in such activities can consume. So they are gaining huge returns on investment such that anybody who gets the opportunity to buy a drink will go and buy Milo, especially if the person is engaged in some form of activity like doing sports, running, playing tennis, playing football. They know that that is the drink that they are supposed to buy. So these are various forms of returns on investment, both tangible and intangible, that sponsors can gain. And once again, like I mentioned with regards to the Milo and Awake example, sponsors also expect to get sales and promotion opportunities. Because when they organize these events, most of the sponsors that I have dealt with regard to events management always come and set up a stand and try to sell their products to participants at these events or attendees at these events. So if it is a bank, they'll come and set up and try to open accounts for people. If it is a company like MTN, they'll set up a stand and try to sell airtime and sell data. If it is an organization like Unilever, they'll try to set up a stand and sell a number of their FMCG products, like the soaps that they produce, among other things. If it is Nestle, there'll definitely be a stand where they are selling Milo or Nescafe, then perhaps even mixing some on the spot for people to taste, right? And these sponsorship opportunities also give less known brands the opportunity to put themselves out there and become more widely known. Because if the product is not that known all over the country or all over the customer segments that they want to operate in, they use the specific activities that appeal to these different customer segments as an opportunity to make themselves known to these segments. So for instance, if we have a brand like Cowbell, when Cowbell came, Cowbell wanted so much to be associated with the energy giving ability to children who have very active lifestyles. So they were sponsoring a lot of activities that involved children and the youth. And through that, Cowbell became very well known because they were doing all these sponsorships and they were selling their products at the events. So by participating in the event, they didn't only get good return on their investment, they were also able to make some sales and then promote themselves as the go-to brand or the go-to milk brand for all children and youth, right? And again, there's image building opportunities. If through sponsorship, firms are able to put themselves out there and associate themselves with specific activities. In Ghana here, we see that a lot of firms do sponsorships to be able to build their images as philanthropists or socially responsible organizations, or build their image as supporters of a specific cause. So you see that brands like Awake are aligning themselves and building an image as supporters of healthy living by supporting the Cardiothoracic Center. Milo also does that by supporting the different active activities that involve exercising and sports to build the image of being a brand that supports those kinds of activities. And like I said, any brand that is not well known can leverage the power of sponsorship to be able to make all the various customer segments that they are targeting aware of their brand and what their brand is about. Because there are certain events that I have attended that have introduced me to new products that ideally, if I was walking around and saw in a supermarket or on a shelf, I wouldn't have looked at twice. But perhaps I went to a family fun day and then Cowbell had a stand there, and that was actually how I got introduced to this milk called Dano milk. When Dano milk first came, I didn't know what it was. I didn't really like it because I thought it was one of those new milks that had been brought on the market and was not very wholesome. But then I attended an event that they were sponsoring. It was a children's event, and they had set up stands where they were serving chilled shots of the milk. So I actually went to the stand and I tasted one. And after tasting it, I was like, this is nice. Even though I don't take dairy, I tried it and I thought, well, this is nice. The children can take it, right? And since then, I've been buying Dano milk because once I gave it a chance and I saw that it was good, I also realized that the price is very cost effective. When you're comparing it with the prices of other milks of similar quality on the market, Dano milk was better, in my opinion.
Yes.
So through that event, I became aware of Dano milk. And since then, I've been buying it. So by sponsoring that event, Dano milk has not only gained awareness for me as a customer, they have also got sales opportunities because I've been buying from them. And so the return of investing in that one event is how do they call it? It's exponential because it is carrying on long after I have attended the event because I still buy Dano milk. Right? So that is it for the interest of sponsors and then what they stand to gain as stakeholders of events planning and management. Does anyone have anything they want to say or add? Joanne, you were saying something.
No, I was just agreeing on what you were saying. I also tried it once, and ever since I've been buying it all the time. The Dano milk.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Very true. Thank you, Joanne, for that confirmation. Please, does anyone have anything they want to add before we proceed? Everyone is fine?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So that is it for sponsors. Let's move on to vendors. Now, vendors are usually the individuals or organizations who come and buy stands at your event to be able to display their products and possibly sell some of them to the attendees at the event. Now, for vendors, there are two main reasons why they come for these events. One, they want to get return on investment, and two, they want to make sales and promotion opportunities. Most vendors that I know of take advantage of events that have high visibility to be able to make people aware of their brands. And when events have high visibility, they attract a lot of attendees. So there's a high possibility that they will make a lot of sales when they come to that event. Now, it is not always true in every circumstance because there are certain events that do not meet the projected number of attendees. I remember recently there was an event that we held at the business school, and it was called the Entrepreneurship Fair. And it was supposed to be a one-day fair where vendors were supposed to pay 150 Ghana cedis to get a stand. Now, after the event, almost all the vendors were complaining because they did not get return on investment and they did not get any sales opportunities. Why? Because the event was organized during the daytime, so they were not allowed to play any loud music. And it was organized at the main campus building where there are almost very few graduate students. And the graduate students are the ones that have money, who are able to make significant purchases when it comes to campus events like that. So organizing it there during the daytime, they did not have access to the graduate students because the graduate students usually come to class in the evenings. So they were not able to make enough sales because the campus students were undergrad students who did not have a lot of money to spend. So some vendors even complained that the price that they paid for the stands, they were not even able to recoup. So they didn't even break even because the 150 Ghana cedis that they bought the stand for, they could not even pay, they could not even sell enough to cover the costs of the stand that they rented. So a lot of the vendors complained that because they didn't see any return on investment and they did not get to make sales, the next time we have that event at that place at that time, they will never come. So in that case, when you're an event professional and you're planning an event that involves vendors, you need to make sure that there are several opportunities for them to gain significant returns on their investments, and then we'll be able to have significant sales opportunities. Recently, the Africa Makeup and Beauty Fair was moved to Trade Fair. And it was really hyped all over the place. There were billboards, there was a lot of noise that was being made, and everybody thought, okay, there'll be high foot traffic, there'll be a lot of attendees and stuff. And they were selling stands for as expensive as 3,000 Ghana cedis, all the way down to 1,000 Ghana. I think 1,000 Ghana cedis was the minimum price per stand at the event. And on the first day, it was a bit vibrant, but then as the days wore on, the number of attendees kept on reducing. And it was supposed to be a whole day event from morning all the way to the evening. But the event professionals did not put in place measures to make sure that there was electricity to provide lighting in the evening. So after about 5:30, when the place becomes, when it starts getting to nightfall, the place becomes very dark. And because there are no lights, customers cannot come in and purchase anything. So the vendors have to close and go home. So in that case, at the end of the event, none of the members were complaining that they did not get the return on investments that they were expecting, given the price that they paid for the stands. And the sales opportunities were limited because they could only sell for a certain part of the daytime and did not get the opportunity to access those customers who came in after work from 5:30 onwards. So as an event professional, when it comes to vendors, your priority should be guaranteeing that they get good return on their investment, being what they paid to be able to obtain the stand. And then they get a lot of sales and promotion opportunities to ensure that they can at least break even and make some profits after they have invested in purchasing a stand to sell at your event. Please, does it make sense? Please, does it make sense?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, doctor.
Okay. All right. Next, we can talk about shareholders and creditors. And shareholders and creditors in the sense that most event professionals are part of event organizing companies. In Ghana here, a number of the event professionals that we have are SMEs and one-man businesses. But in other parts of the world, event planning is a huge business where you can have a whole company with several event professionals working under one company, planning several events at a time. So such companies will often have shareholders who hold shares in the company and are always looking for the company to make some form of dividend or returns to be able to make sure that they can be able to get some return on the income or on the investments that they have made into the event organizing company. So in that case, shareholders are always looking to get good return on their investments. And these people usually have a risk or some stake in the event planning operations of the company. So their risk is always what leads their activities, such that they monitor the events that are being organized and the success of these events to ensure that the risk that they have invested will yield them some significant returns. Now, financial performance is also very important, because if the financial performance of the event managing company is not that good, they will not be able to be paid their dividends when they fall due, right? And that is it for shareholders when it comes to the event management company. However, we can also talk about creditors. Because these event management companies are huge, sometimes they organize the events that they organize in all the plush environments that they do on credit. So you realize that you get an event company, let's say Namumo Events Planning Incorporated, to organize your events. And because Namumo is a big company, even though they have not received the full amount from you, they can guarantee and organize the event on credit and then eventually collect the money and then pay off their creditors. So Namumo can decide that perhaps they have a relationship with Kempinski. So okay, Kempinski, borrow credit us the event space to organize the event on this date. After the event is done, we will pay you within this period. And then they have people that they have arrangements with like that in the industry to provide different logistics for the event to take place successfully on a credit basis. And then they pay them as and when they can based on the agreements that they have. So for creditors to be able to engage in that kind of agreement with you as an event planning professional or organization, they have to guarantee that you as an event professional has a good track record of getting return on your investments, such that if they invest in your business by giving you credit, they'll be able to be paid back, perhaps with interest. Or if it is not with interest, perhaps they'll be paid back by the repeat business that you will keep bringing to them. That is also a form of return on investment. And they have to be able to make sure that the event planning company has good cash flow, so that at any point in time, even if you do not pay them now, you will be able to pay them at the agreed upon time that you have agreed to pay for the services that they have rendered to you. And creditors will always only want to deal with organizations or individuals that have a proven track record of good financial performance. Because if your performance is not good, there's no guarantee that whatever you're taking from them or whatever they're giving to you on credit, you can be able to pay them for. So for shareholders and creditors, return on investment is very important, as well as the cash flow and financial performance, because this is the only way that you can guarantee them their due when the time comes for them to get paid. And that is it for shareholders and creditors. Then next, we can talk about clients. And the clients in this case are the ones who commission the event. So if a couple comes and says, we want you to plan our event, they are your clients. If a corporate institution comes and says, we want you to plan and organize our end of year party, they are your clients. And here, their main interests include relative value of the event for the cost that you are asking. And this is very important. In fact, we were discussing it, was it 2 days ago, about how the costs that clients are prepared to incur to a large extent determines the value that the caterers give them. Because if they are not prepared to spend so much money, the caterer cannot go out of their way to incur the extra costs to give them the value that they are looking for. However, from the onset, as good event professionals, depending on the amount of costs that the client is ready and willing to incur, let them know exactly how much value they can get for what they are willing to spend. Because if you do not do so, and the date of the event comes, and they feel that they have expended a certain cost, and in their minds, they had perceptions of the value they should have received, they are legally right to expect and demand that level of service, because you did not let them understand from the beginning what they were entitled to getting based on how much they had agreed to spend. This doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Yes, doctor.
So from the onset, you have to agree that, okay, because this is how much you want to spend, this is the amount of value I can give you for how much you want to spend. So if the event is taking place and your attendees are insulting you for the substandard value that is being given, in your opinion, don't blame me, the event professional, because I did what I could within the confines of the budget that we agreed on from the beginning. But be that as it may, clients generally expect to receive a quality event, regardless of how much they are willing to spend. That's the funny thing about clients. Who has experienced that? Regardless of how much they want to spend, they still want the events to be a quality one. Yeah.
Did you say they don't want it to be a quality one?
They want it to be a quality one, even if they want to pay dead cheap. They still want the events to be quality.
Oh, Madam, Joanne and I, we've experienced it. Joanne.
They'll negotiate with you to the lowest price, but they still want quality.
Yeah, but most clients, especially at where I am, I don't know of Accra. Maybe things are quite cheaper in Accra. So, but where I am,
Madam, don't go there.
yeah. So
Don't
yeah.
go there.
So it's because assuming a takeaway pack, okay, the price they are selling it in Accra might be a little bit cheaper than when it comes to home. Do you get
It's 17 cities here. How much is it in Ho?
Oh, okay. Whole is just 18 cities, 50 pesos.
Chai!
Yeah. You see, so that is it.
Yeah.
The price difference affects us a lot. So sometimes you give somebody a price and the person is like, oh, this is too much, especially if the person stays in Accra and he or she is coming to have a program in Ho or something. It's always a battle. They're like, oh, this rice, they are selling it like this. So how come you are selling it here? It's not our fault. We are not producing rice here. And transportation from Ho to Accra is quite a distance. So, madam, we face that problem a lot. But I just want to take us back a little about the vendors. Like the program that I want to organize, can I be very selective to know the type of vendor and what you are supposed to sell? How will I be able to monitor that? Assuming this a Jaskele school play that I want to organize. Let's say I have some people who want to come and sell some drinks and stuff like that. How will I be able to monitor them that they don't come there with alcohol, or if they should come with alcohol, can I have any legal something against them? Yes, because,
yeah. Organizing your event. So you determine who can and cannot be there. So you usually put your specifications in your request for proposals. Remember, we learned about this thing in the beginning. We learned about the request for proposals, the request for vendors, the request for event professionals. We put out those contracts and adverts. We saw samples of them. So in your request for proposals or request for vendors, you have to clearly state the kind of vendors that you are looking for. And they have to bring in their applications. So once they bring in the application and you approve, then they can show up. So you can start to filter with the adverts. That's the first one. And then you can also do a second level of filtration using the applicants and the screening of the applicants. So you can screen the applicants and see who qualifies. And then you contact those that you are interested in having come to the event directly. And then have them come. As long as it is your event, you can determine who can show up and who cannot show up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay. So that is.
Doc, and I also wanted to add that some of the clients will tell you that they have beer budget but champagne tastes.
That is a typical. Thank you, now. That is a typical example of clients who are wanting to pay dirt cheap, but they want quality. So a lot of event professionals have become very smart at providing semblances of quality for low price. And it is all in the sourcing of your logistics and tools. So you go to some events and it looks very flashy. There's not a single ceramic plate or glass, but the plastic cups that they are using and the plastic plates and spoons that they are using. From afar, if you see it, the way it has been set up and the way people are using it, you would think that they were real. Who has seen one of those plates before?
Doc, I have.
Thank you. And
even recently I purchased something of that sort from Oka.
Thank you.
They are like very cheap and they
very cheap, but they look very classy. Yeah. So it's about you, the event professional, being innovative and creative in your setup, as well as your sourcing. Because some of these things you will not find them in the regular places that everybody goes to buy items or tools. You have to go searching. And like Namomo is saying, look at a place like Oka. Look at even the location. People will have to go out of their way to actually go there and say, I'm looking for stuff like this. So as an event professional, you need to be able to know what you're working with, because at the end of the day, it's your reputation. And some of these clients, when they go and they're telling the story via word of mouth, they will not say they are part of the story. What they will say is what the caterer or the event professional didn't give them, that they were looking for. So it's about being able to, as an event professional, organize all these classy events regardless of budget. So even if you are not giving them the whole ceramic feel, you give them plastic plates. But when you see these plastic plates from afar, even when you get close, you will marvel to find out that they are plastic. So thank you, Namomo, for that confirmation. A lot of those things are available at places like Oka, like she said, where you go to places too like Palace and Furniture City, the household section.
Now China Mall to ask them.
Thank you. You see a lot of these unique things, and they are plastic and they are very, very affordable, right? Malcolm used to have unique things like that, but these days they've been slacking. But the China World people, the Oka people, the Palace people, they are really on point with these things. So as an event professional, you need to be able to offer quality at any budget, right? But you yourself know that you are offsetting the cost with your sourcing. So that is the second point about clients. And again, clients also expect safety and security when it comes to event planning. So a client may not necessarily pay you to ensure that the event venue is secure. But as an event professional, you know that is a prime issue when it comes to organizing events. The safety and security of the venue, the food that they are eating, and the people who will attend in general must feel safe in the venue that you are going to put them in. So all these things must be on your mind as an event professional. How can I make the food they're going to eat more safe? How can I make the drinks that they're going to consume more safe? How can I make the venue that they are going to be in more safe, right? So sometimes when people can't afford to pay for extra security, they will always make sure that as an event professional, they choose a venue that comes with security as part of the package. Or some event professionals even have within their company certain individuals that they employ on a part-time basis to serve as security people. So they may not necessarily be police people or work for an actual security company, but they are people that the professional will engage on a part-time basis to serve as security at an event. And overall, the client is spending money. They expect for the event to be successful. Regardless of how much money they are spending, they want the event to be a success. So as an event professional, it is up to you to make them happy within the budget that they are willing to spend. So the successful organizing of an event is very, very important to the client.
Doc, please, I want to ask a question.
Please go ahead now.
So sometimes, I mean, mostly in Ghana here, when you're organizing events as the event professional, some of your clients will say, okay, you use this auntie of mine is a caterer to provide the food. They want to find a way to cut down costs and stuff like that. Exactly. Which I mean is okay. But then what if in that case I don't know the strength of the event organizer to monitor the safety. Sometimes you go and eat the food and then maybe they'll be running or there's some issue with the food. In that case, how do you as the event professional monitor the quality of the food that is served and the safety? I mean, in that sense. Is it your responsibility?
It's your responsibility because you are organizing the event and you've been brought in to organize it. But it is your responsibility to let the person who has commissioned you as the event professional know the risk that they are taking by going with that family member. And you also have to let them know the full extent of the safety and security issues with regard to the food, how it's going to be prepared and the consumption. And for me as an event professional, I'll even put it on paper for everybody, for it to be clear from day one, the specific aspects of the events that I was made officially responsible for. And I will make the client sign to that effect, such that in future, in the event that something happens, and then it comes up that, but you are the professional who was in charge of this event, but the food was bad. You can pull up your contract and say, I was in charge of this event, but I was in charge of activity A, activity B, activity C, and logistic A, B, and C, but I was not in charge of food. Does it make sense now?
Yes, Doc. Thank you very much. It does.
Not to cover your back, exactly. And then advise them accordingly, so that if they still go ahead without taking your advice, you have the document to cover yourself, and then they can be on their own. Because I know some people who have gone to events and had food poisoning that have tried to sue before. Who has heard something like that before?
Madam, it has happened to us before. Where I used to work. We were held responsible for the food poisoning. We've had a couple of issues. So.
Thank you. Were you the ones who prepared the food?
Yes, the chef I think the problem was with the salad.
Yeah.
And it's also the time that sometimes the client gives, because of our nature, maybe caterers are always late for events. Yeah. So instead of telling you the truth that maybe the food must be ready at 1, they give you 11, knowing us. Yeah. Yes. So you want to finish on time. If the program is they are going to start eating at 11. By 10:40, your salad should be ready. If a salad has to stay till 1 before the program starts, then we are in trouble.
Sure.
Doc, please, do you understand? And it's not a salad that a small salad that you are putting in the fridge. Yeah. This is a salad boat. We did a salad boat, a huge salad boat, and we did single salads on it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if it was handled well with the timing,
it would have still gone sour.
Yes. Well, we had a serious issue. Yeah.
Very unfortunate. But these are some of the things, you see. So if you, the event professional, are not directly responsible for it, you need to cover your back. Otherwise, someone may take legal action and you will be held responsible for something you knew nothing about. Mercedes, did you want to add?
Yes. I was just thinking from what Bless is saying, is it possible that maybe moving forward, I don't know how big the salad boat was, but is it possible that moving forward, like you just said, because clients know that caterers are usually late, they usually give an earlier time, is it possible not to mix the salad, but then mix it at least? It may, should I say, it will at least prevent the spoilage early, at least, even if you don't.
Sweetie, even with events, you don't have to mix salad. When I say you don't have to mix salad, you don't put the cream and things on it.
Under normal circumstances, that's how it's supposed to be. But most of the time, events I've attended, I don't know why they mix it.
But that is not how it's supposed to be. What happens is that we separate it from the salad, so you will even choose, what you want. You understand? If you remember, I said, I even said single salads. Do you understand? So most of the time we don't even mix. Maybe you have the lettuce at one
somewhere
place.
there.
You have the
use
cookies
yeah,
bar,
I
you
understand.
have, so you can pick them and then do your own mixture. You
Sure,
get it?
sure,
But let's
sure.
use the moment you what to say, and now
Yeah.
you know,
It
you need
becomes
this.
That's true.
okay. Okay.
Thank you, Mercedes and Bless.
Welcome, madam.
Okay, so that's it for the clients. Next, we can talk about the suppliers. And the suppliers can range from those who provide the raw materials and the food stuff and food items to the caterers to prepare the food, to those who provide supply the actual logistics for the events, from setting up the stages to the tables, chairs, table linens, centerpieces, everybody. These suppliers expect prompt payment. So they expect that when they deliver their service to you, you pay them for the services that they have rendered. At the same time, too, they expect repeat business. So they will always do their best to support your events to the best of their ability, so that in future, when you are organizing similar events, you will always call upon them to come and support you. And above all, they expect safety and security, especially for those who provide certain logistics to the event. For instance, if you have a supplier who brings trusses for the event, you want to make sure that the trusses, once the event is over, are dismantled and kept safe for them to come and pick up their materials. At the same time, too, if you have a supplier who supplied you perhaps with glasses and plates, they expect all the glasses and the plates to be secure, in the sense that there will be none that are broken. So usually most of these suppliers will put a clause in their contract where for every plate that you break, you pay 50 pesos, or is it one? Please, what's the going rate now? For every plate that you break, how much do you pay? The ceramic plates. Patricia.
Doctor.
How much do you pay per plate if you break a plate?
In fact, the recent one I experienced, I paid 60 cedis.
60?
I was very surprised.
60 Ghana?
In fact, yes, I was very amazed.
For one plate?
Yes.
What plate was it?
It was just this September, my mother-in-law's funeral. And I don't know, she called us, she brought us a whole list, 60 cedis.
Oh.
So I told her to give me, a sample of it. I'll go to Accra and probably get her the same thing. And she refused.
Because in the agreement, you have to pay for anything that is broken. Charlie, 60 cedis per place, they be one.
It's too much. It's too much.
And what about glasses?
With that one, Madam, you know, they use a lot of this disposable. So with that,
yeah,
I don't know about that.
Okay.
Doc, please ask Patty if she paid the money.
Pat, did you pay?
Hey, bless.
Pat, did you pay?
I didn't.
Pat, cannot agree.
I didn't. I told her I'll pay 30 to this.
I know her now.
Hey.
But that is what I mean when suppliers expect safety and security, and they'll go as far as including it in their contract as a clause, so that they can make sure that the items that they supply to you for your event are kept safe and secure. So some people, even when a chair gets broken or damaged, they will also charge you for it. These are all ways of ensuring the safety and security of the items that they supply to you for the event. Because bear in mind that most of these items, they are not selling them to you, they are renting them to you. So they expect to get them back in good condition so that they can also rent them out to other people. Mercedes, did you want to come in?
Yes, please. When you talked about the renting of the items,
yes.
One thing I've realized is that as human as we are, when we are asked to give a deposit for some of these things, they take good care of it. So I think it's something that we should look at. So like as events professionals, we should make sure that anytime we rent stuff, we make sure we take care of it. Fine, some of the things it's not your doing, but I think when you pay the deposits, you know you have some money there. Most of the time it's refundable. So when you take care of it and you take care of it very well, you realize that they get it back. My parents do rentals, so I know.
Okay.
When they don't pay, at first we were not taking these deposits.
Yeah.
And then there was this particular instance, somebody, after the function and everything, I think some of the things got missing, so many back and forth and all.
People take them home. I've seen a woman putting
exactly, especially the cutlery.
Yeah.
Especially the cutlery. They take it home a lot.
She put the glass and the beer in her bag. I think she was continuing back in the house or something. It was at the funeral. Just watch there.
Wow.
Madam, you should have confronted her.
No, my funeral. Hey.
Somebody's thing. Who is taking it home?
Put the large, clap large. Plus,
please. This one is not embarrassing. Just madam, please. You don't. Why are you carrying it home? Me, I can say it too.
Hey, I'm shy.
We know.
Madam, the next time you experience that, please call me.
You, Joanne.
It's very bad.
A friend even told me that sometimes when they go for the buffet and they can't finish the food, they'll request for cellophane and they'll use it to wrap the plates and the food. And they'll take
Madam, very true.
Yeah. It's very true. I've seen some before. That's why nowadays a lot of people use the disposable plates and they don't give them. Yes. So the disposable cups and the disposable plates, you can take them home.
Yeah, that was really
yeah.
So that's it. Please, let's take good care of our suppliers.
Yes, and also to my colleagues is that for me, rentals, I hardly do it unless the number is very, very large. Yeah. Because what we normally do is that after every order, we try to take some money down for like buying of a plate or a glass.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So once you take the deposit, like Mercedes said, at least you can be covered to some extent.
Yeah. So no matter how small the order is, at least 200 cedis, we'll take it out to go. Renting is rare actually. At least if it is more than 300 plus, then that one will get in some support. But within that range, we should be able to get our plates to cater for that. So, bless, don't be spending all the money. Every order, leave something out small for plates and glass, even if they are not the same. But get some kind of a plain cup. Go for the white one. Yes. As for the whites, they are always there. So
yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. To avoid rentals and the face.
Doc, please, I want to ask you a question.
Yes, Mama, go ahead.
So as an event professional, assuming you have a vendor in charge of, let's say, you have a caterer or a decor person.
Yeah.
And then things go wrong, like there are breakages and damages in terms of like the plates and then the things that they use.
Yes.
After contracting them and all of that, and things go wrong, should you be involved in solving that issue, or you should just leave them?
You should be involved.
Okay.
Because you brought them together to do the job.
Okay, though.
So as an event professional, to cover your back and make sure that you can handle every single event between the client and your vendors, have a separate agreement with every vendor. And know the terms on which you are bringing every vendor on board. And then you factor that into your agreement with your clients. So that in the event that there's a misunderstanding and things go wrong, you can use the terms of the contract to sort out the issues. But you have to be involved. Otherwise, when you call those vendors, they'll never come and work with you again.
Okay, Doc.
Yeah. Very important. Okay. So next we have the press and the media. Now the press and the media don't always come to every event, but you always have some form of media presence at events, be it professional, formal or informal. So even if it's a wedding reception, at least you have some photographer or videographer there. And when they come, they usually also expect safety and security. right? They also expect to have image building opportunity, because most of the time the press will attend these events just to be part of the press houses that cover the event. So when they come for these events, they usually show up for free. But they would want you to give them the opportunity to be able to use the content that they take at the event as part of their news items or their segments that they will do on their TV or radio channel, right? It also creates awareness opportunities for them, because when they cover these events and you are able to tell your attendees that, okay, these people have covered the event, so when you go home, you can watch a recap on this channel. It creates awareness for the different press and media houses that also come to cover the event. So you realize that these days the media who cover weddings and photo shoots always make sure that they put some kind of logo or intro into the video to let people know that they are the ones who shot it. And it's a form of image and awareness building. So you see some of the videos, and then some of them say, well, chocolate shot it. And then there's one where, which one is the other one? Twins don't bake. And then there's another one. There are so many of them around now, but they always make sure that they put in some elements of themselves so that they can create awareness and then build their own image as media professionals. Then we can also talk about the participants themselves at the event. They want to feel safe and secure. I have relatives who have gone to events and they've ended up being robbed. My auntie went for an event at a place. She parked her car outside the person's house where the event was being held. She came out and her car glass had been broken and her car had been ransacked and her handbag had been taken. I don't even know why she left her handbag in the car, but it had been taken, right? People have gone to events and they have been robbed. Their phones have been swiped. So many things have happened at events to participants, and it always affects their experience, such that if the client is organizing a future event, people may not even want to attend. Or if you, the event organizer, the one organizing the event, people may not want to have anything to do with it because they know that their safety and security is not assured. So as an event professional, you need to make sure that you put in place measures to ensure that the safety and security of people are assured. And there are so many ways by which you can do this as an event professional. For instance, you can have someone outside who directs parking and who stays in the parking space, monitoring the cars that have been parked. Even if it's not a formal parking lot and the cars parked by the road, at least there should be someone outside monitoring the cars to ensure that no one breaks into them. A lot of event professionals and event organizers in Ghana do not do that. They feel they are only responsible for the event itself, and all that other peripheral activities are not their business, right? But when it comes to the event itself, to ensure safety and security, some event professionals will say, we don't want everybody getting up and going to the buffet at the same time. They'll go table by table. These are all ways of ensuring security, such that the table that is empty can be easily visible and everybody can see that, okay, the people have left the table and there's an eye on their items, so they come back and then the next table moves. So these are all ways of ensuring safety and security at events. But the event professional has to make sure that the attendees of the event feel safe. And then again, participants also want the event to be successful. If an event is not successful, it means the participants will not have had a great experience. And the main objective of organizing events is to make sure that all the attendees and participants at the event have a great experience. So one key measure of the success of an event is when the participants have a good experience. So event professionals need to make sure that the event is successful by giving the participants an excellent experience. Now, aside from the participants, we can also talk about the local community and governments. And these people usually have the interest of guaranteeing that the event that you are organizing or putting together does not bring about any negative externalities. Some people organize events and it becomes more of a problem than a positive for the community. So, for instance, I have never liked the carnival that they have been having on the Oxford Street before. Because whenever they do that, it creates a negative environment for the young children in the community. And it exposes them to a lot of dangers, because that street is known for a lot of expatriates and a lot of illicit activity, especially when it comes to prostitution and the use and sale of drugs, among other things, right? And these are all examples of negative externalities that an event of that nature can bring to the place. So for me, The Osu Oxford Street Carnival, I don't know. Please, do they still host it? I think they've stopped. Or were they hosting it before COVID? A carnival at the Oxford Street. Or no one knows?
Madam, I think we don't. Namomo.
Please, I don't know.
Okay.
I think they stopped.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they stopped. Yeah, but it produced a lot of negative externalities for the people in the community in that area. Because when you are living in that area, your mother used to live there, and when the carnival is going on, it usually takes place for about a whole week, Friday to Sunday. And you can hear the music as far as Dankwa Circle and Labon because of how loud it was. Right? So these are all negative externalities that can affect the local community. However, events like this attract a lot of tourists. The Year of Return had so many pockets of events that were being organized that attracted a lot of tourists, which provided employment, gave the government a lot of income because these people were coming in and they were spending. So these are some of the economic impacts that event planning and organizing can have on the government, right? But the government also expects that the operations at these events are lawful. So if you know you have to get a fire permit to be able to organize an event or a permit from the police to organize this event, you need to be able to do that to make sure that it's lawful. Like recently, the people who tried to organize the Black Lives Matter protest and they were stopped by the police. It was an event that they wanted to organize to commemorate the death of someone in the United States in support of the protesters who were protesting in the United States. But they did not wait to get the actual permission that they needed from the Ghana Police Service. So even though they wrote to the Ghana Police Service did not respond. They decided to go ahead and have the event without their permission. And eventually, some of them were arrested and the demonstration was brought to a halt. So you need to make sure that whatever events that you are organizing, if you need any legal permission or documentation to give you the guarantee to organize the event, make sure you obtain all those documents. And then the activities at the event are lawful. Government and the community also expect safety and security when you organize events, because the people in the community and the citizens and attendees who will be at the event are the responsibility of government. So you need to make sure that they are kept safe and secure. At the same time, too, they all expect you to organize a successful event, because once the event is successful, all stakeholders, both voluntary and involuntary, tend to benefit. So that is it for local community and government. I don't know if anyone has anything they want to say before we move on to the next segment. Okay. There's no one, so we can move on. Ruth, I can barely hear you. Your line is breaking.
Doc, please have a question, please.
Yes, please go ahead.
Sometimes they organize funerals in the middle of the street.
Yes.
Sometimes they organize funerals in the middle of the street.
Exactly.
If I'm to organize, am I the person, the event professional? Am I the person to go to the police station to ask for a permit, yes, or the one?
You are the one supposed to go for the permit, because you are organizing the event on
one having. Okay.
Okay. So you have to go for the permit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about opportunities and challenges that stakeholders present. Now, stakeholders are a very great asset to event planning, because in most instances, without the support and of stakeholders in terms of the resources that they bring to an event, both tangible and intangible, some events may not be able to take place at all. bear some form of risk as a result of having invested their capital, human resource, financial resource, or something that is of value to them into the event. So without them investing all these different resources, including their capital, financial resources, and human resources, especially in the case of volunteers who are not necessarily giving you money but are expending their human effort, provide great opportunities for you to successfully execute your event. So during event planning, as an event professional, you need to be able to identify the concerns of all your stakeholders and to address them. Because if you are unable to address the concerns of all these people, the resources and the support that they bring to guarantee the successful execution of the event will be taken away. And that means that you as the event professional will not be able to successfully execute the event the way you planned to. But it's important to note that stakeholders also have their own concerns and challenges, right? One being that some stakeholder concerns are based on the claims that are promised to them prior to the event. Like I said, some volunteers, because they are volunteering of their own free will, do not necessarily receive a written contract, but they get a promise of perhaps receiving a thank you at the end of the event. Now, once they have invested their time, their effort in supporting the event, and then the event is successfully executed and it gets to the end and they don't get paid, it becomes a challenge. And because they do not have legal backing, it falls on the moral and ethical compass of the event professional to ensure that these types of stakeholders get their due. Likewise, for sponsors who sponsor events through financial and other non-financial means like giving products and paraphernalia and souvenirs, also expect some kind of returns from their investment. And if the investments that they have given does not yield the returns that they are looking for, it jeopardizes your chances of getting them to sponsor your event in future. And that is one major concern that stakeholders of this kind have, right? Some stakeholders also are mainly concerned about unpredictable issues that could arise because of the events that you are organizing, right? For instance, like I said, the police had to stop the protesters from protesting because they hadn't given them permission to do so because of the unpredictability of the protest that they were having. There was a likelihood that the protest could have turned violent. And perhaps that is why, even though they wrote to the police did not give them permission to go ahead, right? And like I said, for larger corporate sponsors who sponsor events and have their name attributed and attached to the event, they run the risk of certain issues that may come up unpredictably that can affect or erode their brand equity or impact the reputation of their brand. But we should all note that in dealing with stakeholders and as event professionals, I think we are all aware of this. Challenges are inevitable when it comes to organizing events, right? So the larger the number of stakeholders that you have, and the more the moving parts of the event, the more the challenges that you will be presented with as an event professional. So it falls on you to up the ante when it comes to your planning skills, right? In essence, we as event professionals have to ensure that we plan every single aspect of the event execution process, right from the planning stage, like we learned earlier, to the organizing and the execution. And there are stakeholders who are involved at every level of the process of the event management that we engage in, from planning all the way to organizing to execution. So we need to make sure that the interests of all these diverse stakeholders are taken into consideration. And that is why we took the pains to learn about the stakeholder map, the nature of stakeholders, their interests and what their expectations are, so that we can be able to position them in terms of their power and influence and the level of interest that they have in the event. And then we will know how to be able to handle them and then mitigate the challenges that they pose, or the challenges that they feel they are exposing themselves with by being associated with our event. And then take advantage of the opportunities that they present to be able to ensure that we can harness them to successfully organize our event. So in understanding and appreciating the concerns and challenges of stakeholders, you need to ask yourself these questions as an event professional. These include: which stakeholders' interests are more important for the event and the future of the organization planning the event? Because as an event professional, like I said, you shouldn't just be interested in the short-term nature of the events that you are planning. You should be interested in the future of your event planning business and how what you are doing now will impact your your chances of getting more business in the future, as well as how you are organizing the event now will affect the relationship you will have with the stakeholders that are helping you with the event now in the future. As an event professional, you also need to ask yourself which stakeholders' interests are more likely to positively or negatively affect the image of your planning, right? Or the perceptions of the event. Like I said, once a stakeholder, for instance, like a sponsor, gives you some form of financial assistance or resources for your event, you have to be able to a large extent, accommodate their needs and what they want you to do with regard to the event. So for instance, if you are organizing a children's event and a stakeholder says that, okay, since I'm sponsoring the event and my company sells, let's say the company sells packaged food, and they want to come and set up a stand and have some girls stand there and sell the packaged food, but then they'll be wearing crop tops and mini skirts. Will this negatively or positively affect your event, given that the event is targeted at parents and children?
Doctor, negatively.
Negatively. So even though it is the stakeholders' interest and it is what they want, you as an event professional should smartly see that this will negatively affect my event and find a way of working around it or getting the stakeholder to scale back their interest to be able to fit into the confines of the event that you're planning and the nature of the event. You also need to ask yourself the level of each stakeholder's influence on the event when you're planning. Because the stakeholder who is requesting for these mini skirts and crop tops may have a high level of influence. So by saying no to their request, even though it is negative, will have peculiar consequences for your event. And I've had circumstances where sponsors have dropped out of sponsoring specific events because they had certain interests that they wanted the event to be incorporated into the event that the event professional refused to do. So as an event professional, you need to take these things into consideration and ensure that they do not negatively impact your business. So what are the best ways to mitigate challenges when it comes to stakeholders? You need to be able to ensure that as an event professional, you are able to effectively collaborate with your stakeholders. Like I said, a stakeholder may have an interest that may negatively impact your event. But if you have good skills at collaboration and you work hard at it, you can be able to convince your stakeholder to meet you halfway and make sure that they come to terms with the nature of the events that you want to organize and scale back their interests to fit within the confines of the nature of the event that you're organizing. And I cannot emphasize this enough that as an event professional, you need to be able to plan and plan effectively, because the planning stage is what determines the course of the event through the organizing and execution phases. So you have to make sure that you plan very well. And then whenever you make promises to stakeholders, it gives them some form of claim over your event. So you have to make sure that you keep your promises, be it legal or ethical, right? And you also have to have awareness of the impact of the events that you're having on the community. A lot of event professionals organize events and they forget about the impact that it will have on the community within which the event is taking place. For instance, people have events at their homes and then they have part of the event spilling over to the community outside. So their house is in between two other houses and people use the cars, the driveways of their neighbors as parking spaces. I've had several instances where my neighbors have had parties and my driveway, in fact, people have even parked directly in front of my gate before. And my neighbors didn't have the courtesy to even tell me that, oh, we are organizing an event and they'll be parking. They didn't even have the courtesy to have someone outside to direct the parking so that they can park appropriately, right? And this is a classic way of totally ignoring the impact that your event is having on people in your community, especially your neighbors. Please, has this happened to anyone before? Am I exaggerating?
Oh, no, doctor, you are not.
I'm not.
Exactly.
It didn't happen.
Exactly. So as an event professional, you need to ensure that if you have someone outside to direct the parking, or out of courtesy, tell your neighbor, okay, we'll be using the front of your house as parking. Now say, okay, park here, I don't block my gate in case I want to go out, right? Some people will also have events, and then by the time the event is over, the entire community is littered with rubbish. And you do not even bother to get cleaners to clean it up. So you find out that the outside where the cars were parked, you see the takeaway parts, the drink bottles, drink cans, disposable plates, spoons, everything lining the streets. sometimes in front of my house, I've had to sweep several times, water sachets, water bottles, because they came to park by my house, and they decided to, I think some of them decided to eat in the car. The whole place was littered. And my neighbor never cleaned it, or never even came to say, oh, sorry for the inconvenience, nothing. So as event professionals, you need to be aware of these things and make sure that you mitigate the impact that your event have on the general community that are impacted by the event. And also you have to make sure you maintain excellent communication between you being the event professional and all stakeholders concerned. Like I said, whenever my neighbors have parties, they don't even have the courtesy to tell me that, oh, we are going to have a party here and there'll be a lot of loud noise, or there'll be a lot of people coming around. So they might park by your wall, they might park in front of your house. So please bear with us. No one has ever come to tell me anything like that before, but I always have to live with the consequences of these actions. So it is important as an event professional to maintain excellent communication with all stakeholders, from sponsors to vendors to the larger communities to even government. Like the way you have to inform the police that you're having this event and you're going to block the road. It is only courteous to also tell the people in the community that on this day, the road will be blocked for the purposes of having, say, a funeral or a party or something of the sort, right? So these are some of the best ways to mitigate the challenges that come with dealing with stakeholders when it comes to the planning of events. Now, let's look at some typical example of challenges that may come up and then the potential solutions that we can have to them when it comes to dealing with stakeholders. And I'll just pick a few.
Hello, Doctor.
Yes.
Please, can I ask this question?
Please go ahead.
As an event professional, can you pre-finance an event? Is it advisable to do that?
If you are an individual, I'll not advise you to do so. Depending on the nature of the event. If it's a corporate event that you are organizing as an individual, you need to be able to get the clients to commit, at least by deposit. Otherwise, you get excited, you go ahead of yourself, you put in your resources, and after the event, they'll start telling you stories.
Okay.
Why, you've experienced it before?
Yeah, I almost did, but I was wise enough to, cancel that.
Never make that mistake. You are in business.
Dog.
Yes, please.
Dog, I'm offended. She's saying she was wise enough. I'm going through the same issue now, and she says, so I'm not wise.
Oh. Are they not paying back?
Madam, they had a wedding. As I'm seated here, I'm still asking for the money.
See? Please don't make that mistake in your life again. You are in business. You are in business. And like we learned last time, when it comes to the fulfillment of the contract and the guarantees, you have to finish making the payment before the event. So 1 week before.
Madam, you see, Dog, you see, I understand that, yes, it's business. But dog, you see, you have, in doing this business, you tend out to have some form of relationship with some people.
Yeah.
You maybe the person has patronized you for some time. So if this time he or she is saying that, oh, you know, like if I do payments before, you know, asking you to do something for me, but this time I don't have it. Dog, you see, I mean, you also consider knowing who the person is, and then you finish,
and here you are. So sometimes it's business too.
No show.
Juan.
Oh, I just said no show. I'm not saying anything.
Henceforth, you don't mix business with no matter how long in fact, it is because of how long the relationship is standing. You see, because the person is right now not thinking about how long the relationship has been. Yeah, even thinking advantage of that. You're messing with.
Exactly.
If we've been doing business for long, you should know how I do business.
Yeah.
So let's do
sometimes
business.
you have to close one eye.
Exactly.
Right.
You have to close. Seriously, I've had to give money to people before. You have to. you see the money, and I mean, it's juicy, but I mean, like right now, the person has decided, and I'm sure when you're even calling the person can decide when to pick, when
They
not
won't
to pick.
even
When
pick.
not to
Yes,
big, yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
right.
So me, I keep telling you that I want our relationship to continue. The way I know you, please let us continue to be like that. So you pay, and then let's move on. And it's the best.
Yeah,
It's difficult, but
it is.
And it's even dangerous when the people are not in Ghana, they are coming from outside.
that one there, you get your money.
See, that one, it was like she wanted only 50 people. And I said, 50 people in Ghana, wedding in Ghana, 50 people. And she said, oh, just 50 people will be enough and that kind of thing. I said, oh, me, I can't handle this order because even your family members alone, they are more than 50. You think it is outside whereby you say strictly 50 people and 50 people will come. These were 50 people, you'll be experiencing 200 people. So some of these things, we politely turn it down. For me, if I really are not able to do it, I'll just say, oh, give me time. Let me talk to my team. Then after that, I'll call you and tell you that, oh, I also have another order during that same time. So I think I will not be able to manage the two of you. Then nicely, you turn the person off. Then the person goes to look for another person. So that's my suggestion.
John, is John saying that if somebody is outside and asks you to cater for
I think
50
it's a
people.
combination of events. I think the person was asking her to cater for was not making any down payment. Then, there are a number of foreign clients that even before they land, they make sure they pay for everything because they don't want to come and have to deal with payment issues. So they'll even pay you for everything before they come to guarantee that as soon as they land, everything is set.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to spot the red flags. The moment the person starts saying certain things, you know that this thing is not going to let me protect myself.
Yeah.
So please, in future, protect yourself first.
Yes, madam.
You can work on them as much as you can, but Charlie, this is money matter.
Yes, dog. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam, the problem with Blaise is that she likes money too much. She chop
Everywhere.
Too much. That's a problem.
Too much.
Oh, mind you, I'll call you after class, you.
Even if she's sick and tired, she'll still want to cook. No.
This girl.
Okay, so like I said, these are some stakeholders' challenges and potential solutions that you can give to them. I think when you get the material after the class, you can go through each of them and familiarize yourself accordingly. So let's talk about determining the potential impact of stakeholders. Now, to be able to determine the potential impact of stakeholders, I think we saw a bit of it when we had our stakeholder map, where we use the level of power they have, the level of influence they have as against the level of interest that they have. Now, that is only an aspect of power. However, there are 3 dimensions that we need to look at to be able to actually completely determine their impact. And here we can talk about legitimacy, power, and agency, right? And all these influence how they are able to achieve their interests as stakeholders. Now, when it comes to stakeholders and their impact on events, some stakeholders will definitely always have more legitimacy than others. Others will also have more power than others. And for others, the level of agency may be more, right? So it is important for you as the event professional to manage the relationship with your stakeholders such that with stakeholders with even greater legitimacy, power, and agency, you handle them at that level to avoid jeopardizing the relationship that you have with them, as well as the relationship that they have with the event and its successful execution. So let's take these individual dimensions one after the other. First, legitimacy. When we talk about legitimacy, we mean a generalized perception or assumption that the actions of an entity are desirable, proper, or appropriate within some socially constructed system of norms, values, beliefs, and definitions. So the notion that the action of a stakeholder is proper within some socially accepted value system is what the legitimacy component looked at. So here we need to appreciate that what may be moral to somebody or what may be okay in terms of someone's values may not be okay in terms of another person's values. So there are varying levels of legitimacy in different social organizations. And we as event professionals need to appreciate that and bring that to the table when we are dealing with stakeholders. So like I said, in terms of the legitimacy and value, some sponsors would never sponsor an event that has a certain connotation. For instance, there are certain sponsors that will never go into an event that is not family oriented. So they only sponsor family oriented events because as part of their values, they value the family system and they value what it means for a family to be together and to have fun and to uphold the family unit. So you can't bring them in to sponsor an event like a youth rave or a club party. They will never do it based on their level of legitimacy, right? So you need to consider the accepted value systems that your stakeholders go by, as well as their beliefs when you are trying to involve them in the events that you are organizing. You also need to think about power, which we have talked a lot about it. And this is basically the ability of one actor within a social relationship to carry out his own will despite resistance. So we saw a typical example with the Chaskele event where we had parents and children involved. The children had high levels of power, but they had very low levels of influence. They had high levels of interest, but low levels of influence, meaning that their power when it comes to the event is very low, because even though they have high interest and want to participate in it, they cannot determine the nature of their participation. Their parents, however, who have the high level of power, being the high level of influence, can actually either allow them to participate or say that they will not participate, even if they really want to participate, right? So we need to consider the level of power that the various stakeholders have when it comes to the events that we organize. And we also need to think about urgency, right? And this is the intensity with which stakeholders' claims call for immediate attention. For some stakeholders, their claims come at the beginning of the event. For some, it is in the middle of the event, and then some, it is at the end of the event. So for sponsors, for instance, the level of urgency with which their interests come in starts right from the planning stage to the execution stage. Because when you are planning everything from the venue of the event, the signage for the event, the media for the event, among other things. So for instance, if it is an event that involves like Namumu's Ghana, Mercedes Ghana to the World event, and we have the headline sponsor, we need to be able to make sure that from the beginning, we involve the headline sponsor, because their logo and their name will have to be in all the signage that we put around, the billboards that we put around. If we are having radio and TV interviews to promote the event, they may have to show up at the event. So their level of urgency is higher than perhaps the volunteers, who we may have to deal with only during the event and at the end of the event. So this is some of the things we can talk about when it comes to urgency. And here we are saying urgency is very paramount, because if a claim is highly time sensitive and the relationship or the claim is very important to us, the claimant, we have to make sure that we treat it with the urgency that it deserves. So like I said, for sponsors, they always have very high claims that are very time sensitive, such that you have to be able to take care of them right from the beginning of the event, throughout the execution and organizing, all the way to the end of the event. Because even after the event, some event sponsors will ask for a post-event report to be able to see how their sponsorship was put to use and how the event turned out and how it potentially benefited them. So these are the three aspects that we can talk about in terms of how to manage our stakeholders and the potential impacts that they may have on our event. So now let's talk about stakeholder roles, desired support, and the resulting obligations. So sponsors, we talked a lot about sponsors, but basically here we are saying that they can contribute to the event in support, in financially or in kind. So when you bring Coca-Cola to support your event as a sponsor, they can either decide to give you money to pay for certain things, or they can decide that they'll provide beverages to refresh all the people. Now, event professionals should ensure that sponsorships in kind are useful towards the production of the event, and this is very important, because I've seen event professionals accept sponsorships in kind that in no way benefited their event. For instance, there was this event that was organized where it was an indoor event, and the sponsors offered to give the event professional canopies to support their activities by putting the canopies, setting up the canopies outside for the event to take place in case people wanted to sit outside. Ultimately, the event took place fully indoors. Nobody came outside to use any of the canopies. But because they had agreed to it and the canopies had already been set up, they still had to fulfill all their obligations towards the sponsors, even though they ended up not using even one of the canopies. So that's a typical example of how sponsorships in kind can be useless towards organizing your event. So, for example, a sponsor can decide to give you a certain amount of $30,000 to pay for your publicity, right? In exchange for perhaps access to the event attendees. This $30,000, because it is financial, can to a large extent support the event in so many ways, because you can use it to pay for so many things in the event. But you need to also make sure that whatever the sponsor is asking for, you can be able to give them. Because asking for access to the event attendees means that he's asking for access to their personal information. And this may be very difficult for you as an event professional to unilaterally say that you are handing over to a sponsor without the permission of the attendees, right? So what are some of the benefits of sponsorships? They help the potential sponsors' sales and enhance their visibility in society, like we mentioned earlier. It also enhances their image as well as the awareness of their products, which we talked about earlier on in our discussion, right? So as an event professional, you can be able to create separate packages for the sponsors who want to come and support with your event. And I think a number of you have been doing that already in terms of your clients by giving them a gold package, diamond package, and platinum package. You can similarly do that for your sponsors as well. Based on how much support they give you in financial terms, there are certain things that you can offer them by way of benefits when it comes to the event. So in your spare time, you can look through the sponsorship benefit grid and see how it has been classified for this particular purpose. And see the different offers that have been given to various sponsors who give certain level of financial support to an event, right? Okay. At the same time, too, like I said, you cannot go into an exchange agreement with a sponsor without having a contract. So it is important for you to have a contract with your sponsor, clearly spelling out what you desire from them and what is in it for them. Because if you do not spell it out from the beginning, the lines become blurred. So like I said, because of the level of power and influence of sponsors and the interest that they come to the event with, you need to be able to have opportunities for each one of them depending on the role that they play in the event and at which stage. So you can have pre-event sponsorship opportunities, right, where they can sponsor specific aspects of preparation leading to the event, or on-site sponsorship opportunities where you can allow them to sponsor specific aspects of the event as it is ongoing. And then you can also have the final program sponsorship opportunities that involve perhaps the program that you are going to share at the event, including, I think a lot of us have seen this before, where we go for a corporate event, and then in the booklets that we are given as part of the event, which highlights the program of activities, you can see several adverts in it: front cover, back cover, center spread. These are all forms of sponsorship that you can give out to sponsors. However, you as a event professional need to determine the specific value of these different benefits that you are going to give to your sponsors during the event and then after the event has taken place. Again, talking about vendors, we've spoken extensively about vendors, but they always pay a specified fee and they expect to receive some kind of returns on the fee that they have paid. And the amounts that these vendors pay also become a source of financing for your event. So as an event professional, you must take time to plan for your vendors and help them to be showcased, right, as part of your event. So you realize that for certain events that are organized, leading up to the event, in all form of promotion that is done, be it via TV, radio, or print, you see that some of the vendors are featured. And these days, they do it a lot when it comes to social media, to the point where they will even ask some of the vendors to sponsor pre-event giveaways, just to make the attendees familiar with the different vendors that will be at the event, the kinds of products and services that they have to offer. So these are all ways by which you as the event professional can plan for your vendors. So in planning for your vendors, there are a number of questions you can ask yourself. For instance, why should a vendor be associated with the event? Which was a question that Joanne asked. Can you determine which vendor attends your event and which vendor doesn't? Yes, you can, because by asking yourselves which vendors should be associated with the event, you can clearly see those who deserve to be there and those who do not. And you also need to ask what the vendors' limitations in terms of products and services are. There may be certain vendors that are limited in terms of the products and services they can offer the attendees at your event. Just like Joanne asked and we answered, if you are having a children's event, an alcohol vendor is limited in terms of the products and services they can offer at that event, because you do not want alcohol around the children who will be at the event, right? And then you should also ask, what should the vendor's rate be? Meaning, how much are you going to charge your vendors? Now, you need to take all things into account, including the distance from the vendor's location to where you're having the event, the number of people who will be attending the event, and then how long the event is going to be held. Because all these things have to be factored into the rate that you charge, because they will determine how much return that the vendor will have an opportunity to make on whatever investments that they make in terms of paying to rent that space. As an event professional too, you should ask, should there be different rates for different vendors? Like I said, for the African Makeup and Beauty Fair that was organized just before COVID, they had different rates for different vendors depending on how large of a space that you wanted and how long you wanted to exhibit. So they had prices ranging from 3,000 Ghana cedis all the way down to 1,000 Ghana cedis per stand, right? You should also ask, how should the vendors handle the income tax issues? In some places, vendors have to pay income tax for whatever amount of money they earn as a result of selling at your event. So you need to also make sure that they fulfill the obligations of the law. Given the fact that government is one of our major stakeholders, we need to make sure that they do due diligence when it comes to matters that have to do with the law, specifically taxation. And then you also have to ask yourself, who's going to be the vendor coordinator? Because like Joanne asked and we answered, there should be someone who is responsible for the vendors to make sure that they do the right thing, and to be able to ensure that they are well catered for and are happy with all the services that they are offering. There are also additional questions, including how many vendors are needed to be able to ensure that the event comes off successfully. Should we use exclusive vendors for each product or service, or we can have more than one vendor selling a particular product or service? You should also ask, what are the rules and regulations for your vendors, and how does it apply to the community? There are some vendors who come to events carrying all sorts of items. So you have to be able to make sure that you have rules and regulations for what they can bring and how they can set up their stands. You should also ask, what is the impact of each vendor on the community, and how should the vendor be promoted? Because like I said, in the events leading up to the D-Day of the event, different forms of promotional activities are undertaken, both on TV, radio, print, and on social media. So some vendors can be offered everything from radio, print to TV, and so including social media, or they can all just be limited to social media adverts, right? So what are the potential benefits for vendors? When you as an event professional bring vendors on board, and you, the event professional, has a website that you have designed for the event, which we will learn more about tomorrow during our lecture on new technologies in event management, you can see that the vendor can use your website as a way of promoting themselves. If you add that as part of the package that you are giving them for signing up to be vendors at your event. You also get to enjoy pre-event and during event promotions, because pre-event, you can add them as part of your marketing promotions in the radio, TV, and newspaper adverts, as well as your social media promotions towards the event. And during the day of the events too, in the event that there's some live streaming or live action going on, you'll get regular shout outs and people being pointed towards their stand, as well as people who are watching from whatever destination they are, assuming it's an online stream, can be invited to come to the site of the event and patronize the vendors. We can also talk about putting the vendors' links on your page, sometimes long after the event has ended, to continue to give them some kind of publicity and help to promote their products and services. Right? So these are some of the benefits that vendors stand to gain by being associated with your event. And then we can talk about attendees finally. Like, these are the people who make the event happen. If you organize the event and you bring in all the vendors and the stakeholders, and they are all present and they are willing to support the event, and you don't have anybody to attend the event will not take place. It will be deemed a flop because you didn't get anyone to attend, or perhaps the projected number of attendees did not get up to the level that the vendors were expecting to make good returns. Like the example that I gave you about the entrepreneurship fair, where they did not get the kind of attendees they were looking for who could spend money on the items that they have for sale. So like I said, without attendees, there's no event. So you, the event professional, must make sure that you do your utmost best to attract attendees to your event. Because without them, they are the leverage that you have to convince the sponsors that if they sponsor your event, you can expose their products and services to this number of people. And they are also the same leverage you use to get the vendors to come, because you can say that I'm attracting up to 100 or 200 or perhaps 1,000 people. And as a vendor, if you buy a stand at my event, you get to have all these people walking in, and they are all potential customers who will buy your products and services. So how do you appeal to potential attendees? You, the event professional, should consider including advanced information about the following in your campaign. First of all, the date and location of the event, right? A lot of people start promoting their events and do not really give advance notice about the dates and the location, right? So we see it becoming more and more popular that people give advance notice of dates and locations for events. Even the wedding people have started doing the save the dates, which previously was not a popular thing in Ghana, but now they do save the dates to be able to sensitize people as to the date and location of their upcoming nuptials. You also need to include information about key attractions in the event destination. All this will be able to whet the appetite of the potential attendees and help them to be able to appreciate what they stand to gain and enjoy by way of experience when they attend your events. Still on the issue of experience, you also need to talk about the benefits of and opportunities that they will have. A number of events tout several benefits, including networking. Apart from networking, it gives them the opportunity to also enjoy certain things that they will not enjoy on a daily basis. Like for instance, Namumu's evening spa would provide unique benefits for all those busy people who do not have the opportunity to go to a spa during the daytime or even during their lifetime. But perhaps this will be a unique opportunity that they can actually set the date apart and take time out to benefit from this unique spa experience. As an event professional, you also need to share your planned content and entertainment for the event. Some people attend certain events specifically because they were promised that certain kinds of entertainment will be there. I remember when we were in the University of Ghana doing our undergraduate, when they are doing Hall Week celebrations, we used to attend the artist night because they would tell us that maybe Sarkodie will be coming, or maybe Shatawale will be coming, right? So it was the entertainment that was promised that would entice a lot of the students and the attendees to show up. And sometimes some of them will even call their colleagues in other universities around, especially the private universities, to come for the event because they said this artist is coming, right? So these are all ways of creating interest in the minds and hearts of your attendees so that they will be motivated to show up for the event. And in case it's a conference or some form of formal event, you need to be able to make the keynote speakers and other special speakers known, because some of these keynote speakers and special speakers may have their own following, which will also attract a number of attendees to come for the event. So someone may not necessarily be interested in attending your event, be it Ghana to the World or Chaskili, but perhaps the person will attend Ghana to the World because they are avid fans of the Minister of Tourism. And the Minister of Tourism will happen to be speaking at that event. So even if they will not attend at all, they will come there just because the minister will be speaking. In the same way, someone may attend the Chaskele event not because they are interested in playing the games, but because the chief of the community is coming there to speak about the nature of games that they used to play when they were children and the benefits of these games. So someone will come there just to listen to the chief. And these are all ways of attracting attendees to come to your events. Also, we can talk about things to do in the event destination, which are different activities, especially if it's a children event or a fun event or a sporting event. You need to be able to make known the kind of activities that they'll get to do when they come for the event. You can also talk about accommodation and transportation at the event destination, assuming it is on the outskirts of town or it's a bit of a distance away. You can talk to them about how to get there and then how to be able to get back to their destinations once the event is over. If it is an event that will require some degree of financial commitment, if you have scholarships and financial support available, you can also make that known. A number of academic conferences, for instance, when I was studying for my PhD, for instance, most of the conferences that we were attending provided financial support for PhD students who were coming, and they'll give you some form of bursary to help you pay for your accommodation and your conference attendance fees. So these are all things that were publicized prior to the conference, and we had to apply to be beneficiaries of. So these are ways by which you can use potential scholarship or financial support to enhance the likelihood of people attending your events. And like I said, for corporate events and events that involve some form of networking, there are promises that you can make to attendees of being exposed to potential job opportunities, being able to do some career networking, perhaps coaching opportunities, and so on, depending on the nature of the events that you are organizing and the kind of things that will be done at that event in terms of activities. And a lot of people to attend events these days, when they can be guaranteed of what we call internet accessibility and Wi-Fi lounges, because people have to be connected 24/7. For the longest time, I knew some people that if you invite them for an event and they can't have their laptop with them or their phone with them, they cannot come because they have so much to do at work that if they take time off to be at the event and they will be sitting down for extended periods of time, there should be a Wi-Fi connection such that they can tap into the grid and be getting some of their work done while they are sitting at the event. So if there's going to be internet accessibility and Wi-Fi and the opportunity to recharge their phones and devices, you should make all these things known, because they can either make or unbreak the decision for a particular attendee to attend your event or otherwise. But we need to note as event professionals that once you make a promise, you have to be able to fulfill it, because every promise that we make in the marketing campaign will be a part of the expectations that the attendees will come to the event with. So if you make a promise during your marketing campaign, you have to make sure that you deliver it when the attendees come, because your word is your, please, we just learned this thing. Your word is
your bond.
Thank you.
Bond.
So you have to make sure that whatever you say, you do. Yes. And that brings us to the end of our session.